Everyone, and welcome to my presentation on communicating and advocating for school and community needs. My name is Kelly Clark, and this is my Module 6 for Cultural Diversity. All right, to start off with the school board policies that we were asked to look at, I looked at liberal schools policy and noticed, of course, right away they had the sexual harassment and discrimination, racial harassment and equal opportunity statements, like pretty much I think every policy, I'm sure that's required to have within your policies. So I put their statements there that they have on those. And then one statement that I found was interesting and unique to this school district in particular is that they had a policy that talks about partnerships between family, schools, and community and how they will be supported. So first of all, they look at the development of an infrastructure to continually assess, plan, and implement strategies that build this partnership. Building level committees of parents, teachers, community representatives, and administrators guide the overall program efforts and serve as a family community network. And then they have coordination of activities through staff development in areas of teacher in-service, assessment of teaching strengths, and communication with families towards creation of the best possible learning experience for the child. And then they also noted that self-study of family engagement practices by teams, parents, teachers, community members, and administrators in the school using the following KSDE adopted national PTA standards for family school partnerships. So I think this policy in itself just shows that they find it very important to communicate with families, and diverse families would be included in that, and that they also have this as a focus for teacher development. Although they didn't necessarily mention any specific groups or specific trainings that they do, this would lead me to believe that they do have those things in place. So the liberal policy, when going through everything in that, diverse groups that were addressed were students with special needs. They had a section for alternative arrangements if students needed to have education in a different setting. They had a section for married and pregnant students, homeschool students, homeless students, and then of course they had the the sexual harassment and racial harassment clauses in there for male and female, and then of course races. I didn't really notice any specific teacher training that was required. However, there was that statement about the staff development when talking about building partnerships. And so I'm guessing that they do have some training that is in place, although it wasn't specifically mentioned what kind. Next, I looked at Wichita Public Schools, and so the statement that I put up here at the beginning says the population of Wichita Public Schools is comprised of individuals from diverse backgrounds and life experiences. This diversity defines each of us individually and collectively. The diversity in the Wichita Public Schools includes, but is not limited to, race, ethnicity, culture, age, gender, sexual orientation, language, social economic status, religion, disability, or school level. The Wichita Public Schools honors and provides the board-based diversity of the district through practices that embrace differences and provide all students high quality and equitable opportunities. One unique thing about Wichita Public Schools is they have a diversity, equity, and accountability committee. And that committee, the goal of them is to advise the board when regarding the adoption of policies and implementations of practices designed to promote diversity, prevent discrimination, assure equitable access to high quality educational staff, facilities, and materials, and to maximize student achievement for all students. So again, that leads me to believe that that teacher training and communication and working with diverse families is important to their district. They also have ESOL programs, and it just mentions in their statement there that people will be informed in their native languages, provided qualified personnel, and that children's language proficiency and in the children's language proficiency and program assignments. So again, I know that teachers have to be ESL certified, and with the communication piece there, they are providing things in the native language of the families. So some diverse groups that I noticed just skimming through the policies there was, of course, they had students with special needs, homeless students, Title V, mentioning sex and race. And then there was a policy in there that I did see that mentioned Asian, Indian, Asian Pacific, Black, Hispanic, and Native American students. I did not see where any teacher training was necessarily addressed in the district policies. However, there was lots of information about diversity in different programs that they have, which led me to believe that, I mean, they're aware of it and knowledgeable about it, and probably encourage their teachers to be trained in that area. Okay, then looking at Dodge City school districts, they had a non-discrimination statement that says USD 443 does not discriminate on the basis of race, color, national origin, sex, age, religion, military status, primary language, and or disability. This non-discrimination policy applies to admission, employment programs, activities, and providing equal access to Boy Scouts and other designated youth groups. A lack of English language skills will not be a barrier to admission and participation in the career and technical, vocational, and or educational programs of the school. So again, they had the racial and disability harassment statement. The Title I programs, you know, similar to other districts, but the highlighted part that I have in there is that they will develop appropriate communication channels between all parties, and that they will provide full opportunities for the participation of parents and guardians with limited English proficiency. And also on their website, there was lots of migrant ESL Title I resources on the website. So there was lots of things that were accessible to teachers, people within the district, parents, students, anybody that needed those resources. So some policy highlights here, some different groups that were addressed: economically challenged students, exceptional students, disabled students, students with special needs, non-traditional students, foreign exchange students, and foster care students. I didn't really see any training that was necessarily highlighted in the policies. However, Dodge City does have an ESL and migrant education program. And there were lots of resources and information there, and I know that being a part of that, teachers would have to be ESL certified. Then I took a look at Garden City Public Schools, and so the statement there is that every child, regardless of race, creed, color, sex, age, national origin, cultural or economic background, or handicap, is entitled to equal opportunity for educational development. No student shall be excluded from participating in or denied the benefits of the subjected to discrimination under any educational program or activity conducted by the district. The board shall treat its students without discrimination as it pertains to the course offerings, athletics, counseling, employment assistance, and extracurricular activities. They also had a statement in there about multicultural or multiracial understanding, and it says the district recognizes that racism is an institutional and societal problem, and therefore shall strive to create and maintain an atmosphere of mutual understanding and respect among students, employees, and the public. This will be reflected through all of its programs and practices that shall actively promote cultural awareness, intergroup relations, and the understanding of racial and ethnic groups within the district. So some policy highlights there is economically challenged students, exceptional students, disabled students, students with special needs, non-traditional students, foreign exchange, and foster care students are the groups that I saw highlighted in specific policies. I did not see that there was any teacher training that was necessarily addressed in the policies. All right, then looking at my own school, our mission is educating all students for tomorrow's challenges. And so our statement was that all students shall have an equal opportunity to pursue and acquire knowledge and to master the curriculum objectives. The program shall provide for student mastery and basic skills, higher order thinking, and the ability to work in groups and individual physical and mental well-being, and other varied needs and interests of students. The curriculum shall be outcomes oriented and the instructional program research based. The educational process shall be comprehensive program undertaking in the cooperation with parents, institutions, and community programs. In addition, the education program, the district shall provide programs to meet special needs. These programs shall be outlined in the appropriate handbooks and other documents following board approval. So a couple things I highlighted here. There was a statement that said parental involvement and cooperation is important to the success of educational groups. So that's something that we do try to maintain within our school. And then in our Title I statement, developing appropriate communication channels between all parties to the extent providing full opportunities for the participation of parents, guardians with limited English, with disabilities, or those of migrant children. So then I also looked at our homeless policy, that all the schools have that, but in our homeless policy it did mention that we must have transportation services, educational services to which the child or youth meets the eligibility criteria underneath the Title I program, programs in career and technical education, programs for gifted and talented students, and also school nutrition programs was listed underneath that policy. So some highlights: we have special needs, economically challenged, Title I, with educationally disadvantaged children, ELL, migrant children, and homeless. In our school, it's not necessarily all mentioned in our district policies, but every teacher must obtain their ESL certification within the first 2 years of working in the district. All teachers must be trained in trauma-informed practices, and we must all complete the Green Bush requirements on suicide awareness, education for homeless, dyslexia, preventing abuse, and doing the reporting for that. So then I broke down the research on the articles that we were asked to read into 3 themes. The first theme was communication, and it said there that for 30 years research has shown that parental involvement is consistently linked to higher student achievement. This cannot be accomplished without a solid foundation of communication. And so we must find ways, to consistently communicate with families, become familiar with the families, vary the communication techniques. We need to realize that communication is a cheap and easy way to boost student achievement. So some techniques that can be used that was in the research was, of course, the traditional ones, such as calls home, face-to-face meetings, and letters mailed home. However, there are some new techniques with technology, so we could use things like Class Dojo, Remind, Talking Points, Seesaw, AI. These apps are convenient, and they also do some translating to help with some of the language barriers. Next, I wanted to talk about trust. Trust is an individual or group willingness to be vulnerable to another party based on the confidence of the latter party is benevolent, reliable, competent, honest, and open. So trust is not often focused on in research because it's very difficult to define and also to measure trust. However, we know that trust is one of the key elements to being able to build a partnership between schools and families. And so some ways that we can do that is just make sure that we always set the tone of respect and inclusivity. Some techniques to help build trust would be to invite families to share knowledge about their students, use inclusive terminology and materials, and hold events that bring families together. Building trust with families is vital to helping close that achievement gap. And then the last theme that I have is family engagement. So communication and trust are 2 important pieces, but then we have to dig a little bit deeper and get families engaged. Family engagement needs to be more than just isolated activities or focusing on holidays, language, heroes, and things like that, but it needs to be implemented and integrated into all of our district goals and initiatives to be able to actually see student improvement in learning outcomes. So to do this, we need to design a philosophy, hold parent education events, and make all families feel wanted and valued. We need to consider our own cultural identity and then make sure that our classrooms are reflecting all of the cultures that surround us, and this includes lessons and assessments as well. This can all become very complex, but it is our goal to close the achievement gap. Then we must work to develop family and school partnerships. And finally, I have the references that I used in my presentation. Thank you very much.